dare I say, conspiracy?
Ooh. Welcome to the Charlotte Buzz, where we drink beer from local breweries while telling stories about the neighborhoods they're from. I'm Chrissy, and this is Drew.
And today we are drinking Reptar juice
Hey.
from 26 Acres.
Bam.
Concord,
Concord.
as Siri would say. Concord.
Now, full disclosure, I have had this before, but also,
Oh my goodness.
I'm going to cause a mess.
You struggling?
Yep. But also, you cannot go wrong with anything that is 90s nostalgia, especially when that 90s nostalgia is 90s Nickelodeon. The only thing that could make this better is if it were a Pataki Porter, a Shortman Stout. You could even give me a Helga Hefeweizen,
Oh God.
or maybe an Arnold Amber. I have a problem, guys.
Wow.
I have a problem.
You just gave everybody beer name
I'm good with it.
that they could use.
You're welcome.
Copyright.
You are welcome. It's like
Heard
the
it here
Charlotte
first.
Buzz.
You can use it, just give us credit.
Yeah, that's all.
That's all we ask.
Point some people this way. But I'm a big fan of the 90s nostalgia. And if you make any kind of a Hey Arnold beer, I don't even care if it's an IPA. I will find a way to make it my favorite.
Sheesh.
Until then, this Reptar Juice IPA is pretty fine.
It is a New England IPA, so of course you like it. 7.2%.
Ooh.
So a bit hefty. We're getting up there in Dipper land,
Hey.
you know?
All right.
I just want to tell you the name of another beer that they have there. Hingle McCringleberry.
I tried that one while I was there too. The bartender, I got a flight, and the bartender was, she said that Reptar Juice is one of their very popular ones. And I have I took a picture of the tab handle of this because it is like a Reptar. They've got a box of Reptar cereal up there. But she said the Hingle McCringleberry was a second, like, popular and a very good one. So I tried that. It was actually, not bad.
Well, I don't like raspberry.
I don't either, actually, but it really wasn't obnoxiously so that it was good.
Do you want to say anything before I give the...
It's a little thicker, maybe less filtered, if you will.
I mean, yeah.
I know, but I'm saying we've had hazy ones
yeah.
that felt more filtered.
Yeah.
Kind of juicy. I almost want to say, like, I feel like it's almost like not like it's a milkshake IPA, but it feels like milkshakey for what it's worth.
Got a thick creaminess to it.
Yeah.
I can see that. Or taste that. That really has nothing to do with seeing anything.
Not quite sure which, like, flavor. My brain wants to say mango, but that's because we had mango earlier today, and so I can't get past that. But tell me things.
It says, flaked oats and wheat give this beer an opaque, hazy orange color and a pleasantly thick mouthfeel. Ample amounts of mosaic and citra hops, probably our favorite two, if you're going to use two.
Sure.
But they are added in the fermenter rather than during the boil. The result is a semi-sweet, super juicy, aromatic, hazy IPA. Perfect for quenching a Reptar's thirst.
Yes. Reptar.
I'm not sure how they know what's perfect for quenching a Reptar's thirst.
If you know, you know.
I guess I'm just not one of those that knows.
No, you're not in the know of the 90s Nick.
Guess not. But hey, it'll drink. It's good.
Surely will.
Yeah, I can see this being their favorite because of the name, and it's a New England IPA, which during our buzz bracket, those ranked the highest.
Yeah.
If a place had a New England IPA, that was like their top beer on Untappd.
It's definitely all the rage.
Is it?
So we're at 26 Acres in Concord. They were formed in October 2016, so they're coming up on their 3rd anniversary. Created by 3 Concord natives. It's strange to say Concord because we joke so often the way Siri does it, so I'm always saying Concord.
Yeah, Concord.
And so actually saying Concord feels so strange. 3 natives. It was the 3rd brewery to open in Concord. And it is named after the 26 acres of land that the county seat was founded on, which we actually talked about last time we did Concord with Cabarrus.
Yep.
And just some fun little facts. They have food trucks every day of the week, all kinds of different stuff. First Thursday out of every month, they have a live comedy show. And then, kind of all the other odds and ends of things. They're actually literally across the street from the Concord airport. And I didn't realize that. It's one of those, you pull in and you're like, am I pulling into a, what are they called? A storage unit type of thing? Because it's kind of like an office park, kind of like a storage
11
thing.
11 Lakes was.
Yeah, it's not quite as storage thing as 11 Lakes, but it feels sort of storage unit, sort of office park, and then suddenly you're like, oh, but there's no one of those doors is the brewery. Yep, that's it. But it's cool. Cool little place. And I'm a fan of their beer. Reptar.
Well, that is good.
So we're back in Concord. What do you have for us, Drew?
Well,
first of all, elephant in the room.
Oh, gosh.
For anybody watching the YouTubes, I got a new hat. It's a fitted one. I was looking for a fitted one that would fit my head for the longest time. Simple, and I'm happy about it.
Well, that's good.
Now that huge elephant is out of the room.
Yeah.
Carry on.
Everybody was so worried about
I
it.
know.
Where'd you get it, Nike?
No. Yes, I did.
So the place I'm going to talk about, went to Concord a lot as a kid. Father ran a karate studio up there for a bit. So every Saturday we'd probably go up there, do that, get some baseball cards, that whole ordeal. But I always saw this sign, and being a Civil War nerd back in the day, it always caught my eye. It is the Stonewall Jackson School. So I figured I'd talk about that. I mean, there's talks of it being haunted.
Ooh.
And it
we have talked about this.
Yeah, it definitely looks like it is because it's all run down. So maybe it was best to save it for October, but who knows? I'm just going to do it now anyways.
We're just going to build the suspense for October.
Yeah. So in the late 19th century, young people, regardless of their age.
How does that work?
Yep.
Okay.
I was about to say that. I guess.
Some minors, regardless of their age.
Yeah. I guess other than the part that they're young. Don't regard anything but that they're young.
Okay.
Were convicted of crimes in North Carolina, received punishments as adults. So I guess what's really being said is that, like, if they were 17, and it was murder, nowadays they'll charge them as adults. But if they're like 12, then probably not. They won't be charged as adults. It's like, how close are you to 18?
Yeah.
But they're saying no matter what, young folk, they were convicted as adults. There was no separation of the two.
Okay.
So James P. Cook, an editor of the local Concord newspaper, The Standard.
Ooh.
Setting standards, I guess. Witnessed a 13-year-old boy receive a 3-year and 6-month sentence on a chain gang for petty theft in 1890.
Wow.
So, a lot of stories I read, they didn't even talk about exactly what the petty theft involved. But I think this I mean, I can see how it would be pretty hard to witness this happening. So the boy had been born to an uneducated couple, probably all of North Carolina in 1890, who lived in the Piedmont Hills. Disease took his parents and left him as an orphan. He was sent away to his distant relatives, and no effort was made by the boy's caretakers to improve his life outside of feed and clothe him.
Yikes.
Which a lot of people don't get that. So.
I mean, sure.
But anyways, one Sunday, the boy's caretakers left him to watch over the property. In their absence, the boy went exploring about the house and came upon $1.30 in a bureau. I guess drawers.
Yeah.
Which he thusly pocketed. Later day, the male figure in his life came back to the house and found the money missing. And the next morning, the boy was arrested and placed in county jail. So the kid stole $1.30, which in 1890 was worth $36.65.
Which is a lot, but also not a lot.
Yes. He sold $36 from a family member, and he is sentenced to 3 years and 6 months on a chain gang.
Yikes.
So because of this, Cook devoted the next 17 years to campaigning for a state training school to help young male offenders, because they were just getting thrown in chain gangs and in prisons
so
with
instead
adults.
of prison, doing some sort of like rehabilitation type of stuff.
So Cook and the King's Daughters, it's some kind of female society. I'm not real sure who they are, but
okay.
They persuaded the state legislature through public meetings and newspaper articles to build a school. And this didn't happen until 1906. I couldn't find I came across it and then couldn't find it again. But one thing that I believe was like a big factor in getting this legislature passed was they got the widow of Stonewall Jackson to convince part of the legislature that it would be a good idea. And this is early 1900s, so a lot of the people in the legislature were Confederate veterans. So, they look at Stonewall Jackson, who was a Confederate general, as like a heroic figure, I mean, his name was Stonewall. His first name was Thomas, but Stonewall. So that I saw where she helped convince them, and that's why it was probably named Stonewall Jackson School, was because
that makes sense
of that influence. But it became law March 2nd, 1907. So the Stonewall Jackson Manual Training and Industrial School was created. Male offenders under the age of 18 were remanded to Stonewall Jackson Training School in lieu of prison time. So stealing $36 from a family member will now get you sent to this school. It was like normal crimes, like petty theft, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And also like minor scrapes with the law and doing bad in school. So it was just like, they called it troubled youth.
Yeah.
So they said like talking back to a police officer or not doing well, just not doing well in school overall. Like a troublemaker or just didn't do your work, I guess. I don't know. But they would get sent to this school.
Okay.
It says that they were sent there for crimes and injustices that would today result in suspension or even a slap on the wrist. So tiny things. Because of this, because it didn't take very much to get sent here, at the peak, population reached nearly 500 students.
Wow.
They'd spend half their day doing academic work, like actual schoolwork, and then the other half was labor.
Okay.
So They received training in a useful trade. Students worked in a shoe shop, a machine shop, sewing room, print shop, barber shop, textile plant, or on the school's farm. One thing I found that was cool was that the print shop, they actually published a magazine every month.
That's cool.
Called Uplift.
Oh, how sweet.
And you can you can actually find those magazines on the interwebs.
Nice.
Archive.org. I will link it below.
Nice.
So along with those plants and stuff, the school also maintained a 984-acre farm to provide both food and financial support. They farmed like tomatoes, cabbage, beans, corn, potatoes, and they had a herd of dairy cows that provided the school's milk and ice cream. So there was ice cream.
I like it.
I like ice cream.
Me too.
I wonder if they had sprinkles.
Doubt it.
Anyways.
You're getting too needy.
Yeah. They also had beef cattle and hogs that provided meat for the school. Mm-hmm. So you'd go to school in the morning, work in the afternoon, and then you would go back to your dormitory style building, and waiting on you was a cottage father and mother.
Ooh.
The father was expected to oversee the boys at play, provide discipline, and counsel them as needed. The mother prepared meals, kept the cottage clean, and ensured that the boys minded their manners.
You should go to that school just to learn some manners.
I got manners.
Not all of them.
Says 30 boys would occupy an individual cottage. Mm-hmm. Like that was kind of the max that they would see. They try to create like a family-like structure.
That's cool.
To foster positive emotional and social development.
I mean, that's actually like, considering the time.
It's a great idea.
It's a great idea, but I think it's a very like progressive way of thinking given the time, because in that time it's like, you get arrested for 3+ years for something stupid. Yeah,
it was way better. It was a better idea than I believe the that women's group. What was it? King's Daughters. Mm-hmm. There's King's Daughters and like another female North Carolina group was like, I'd much rather them not be causing trouble at home and in schools and be busting rocks.
Right. Like we're going to,
So Cook brought them this idea and they're like, sure.
Yeah. And that's what I mean. Like this is such a commentary on today's society and how we're still in that place of, obviously it's different crimes and different levels of crimes and stuff comparatively, but we're still in a place where little things are getting people just being punished instead of anybody taking the time to like, well, let's fix it instead of just, but
now
I'm just thinking it's really cool and like progressive considering the answer of that time is, well, beat them and carry on, you know, like,
well,
oh no. I mean, I imagine they still got like some sort of corporal punishment in the process, but
do you think such a place would be considered haunted if it was all sunshine and rainbows?
Well, I imagine nothing is sunshine and rainbows, but I'm saying I don't even know if it actually played out as intended, but the intent of what it is meant to be sounds great.
Yeah.
Like it, and again, like for the time, like that's wildly incredible. But I imagine it did not play out quite that way.
So there were no, there's no like actual articles about what went on exactly there, but the school is still open.
Oh, I didn't know that.
It's not in the same buildings. They've built new stuff, and it's more like it's like a juvenile detention center than less of like a reform school. The big difference being back then there were no fences. And so boys could run away, and now there are fences, and boys cannot run away. But when I was reading stuff, there's a comment section in a lot of places, and people were telling their stories from like the 50s, 60s.
Okay, from people who attended it?
Yes, who were there.
Oh, that's so interesting.
And so this is where you get a lot of your rumors and but this is where this is where a lot of the stuff that people, when they're scared of the place or they say it's haunted or...
It's already got influence and things in your brain.
Yeah.
And so it's going to heighten things whether you experience them or not.
Yeah.
But.
So, yeah, hard to actually find an article about it. Probably because they don't want anybody to know about it.
I mean, sure.
Really.
I mean, and even with it being in different buildings, like it's still open, so that's still part of their reputation. That's crazy.
If you read through there, I'm not going to get into any details about these things because I'll either get it wrong and that's but there are plenty of stories of physical abuse, sexual abuse, by both the inmate on inmate crimes and like the adults.
Yeah.
Like father and mother figure.
Yeah. And I mean, it's not surprising at all. Because I mean, that stuff happens today in quote good places.
Yeah.
So I mean, in places where people are bad, I mean,
yeah, they feel
it's horrible, but
they
you almost don't blink. Easier. Yeah, you don't blink an eye at it. So.
So yeah, there's a lot of abuse. Russell Smith is the name of a guy who was there in the 60s from age 13 to 15. And he has since founded 2 coalitions supporting equal rights for prisoners. Seems like he's pretty successful in it. He's gained some ground. And
that's great. Good job, Russell.
There's some good coming out of it.
Yeah.
Even though it may have been started by something bad. You know, he's helping out more than just the Stonewall Jackson School, you know. Another crazy historical fact that is associated with this place. After World War II, the state wanted to prohibit, and I quote, feeble-mindedness and to improve the state's...
It's not funny. It's so rude and like jacked up.
But like nobody would even use that word today. Right. That was probably like common word back then.
It absolutely was, yeah. So that's why I giggled. It's just the terminology of it, not the concept of it.
Yeah, so they wanted to improve the state's population pool. 6 teenage white boys were sterilized against their will by vasectomy.
Oh, God.
And it was like, at the time, North Carolina had a state eugenics board.
Oh, God.
And they actually passed a bill to sterilize persons that were mentally defective.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. And North Carolina...
This is horrible.
Yeah, and North Carolina was like one of the last states to like do away with sterilization. They like thought it was cool for like the longest time, apparently.
Oh my God.
I don't know when it stopped, but
that's one of those like janky rules that stays on the books like into current times, and somewhere someone's like, "Huh,
this is like one of those,
maybe we should get rid of that."
Like if you're watching History Channel and they're like, "Where did all these Nazi war criminals go?" Like eugenics was a very Nazi thing. So one may have came to North Carolina. You know, I mean, it was right after World War II.
I mean, yeah, you're not wrong.
I mean, dare I say, conspiracy?
Ooh.
But it sounds like a very Nazi thing to do.
I mean, yeah, you're not wrong.
Other than the fact that it was white boys. Mm-hmm. But
if they didn't have blonde hair and blue eyes, I mean...
And they're troublemakers. And,
I mean, like, the Nazis didn't, like... Jews were also white. Yeah, like, I mean, it was... anyone who was not the blonde-haired, blue-eyed Aryans. So, yeah, people who were of, like, mental handicap and that kind of stuff. Like, they were also put into camps. And we just, obviously, the majority of people were Jewish. And so that's what we put it as. But it was everyone.
Yeah.
God. Conspiracy.
Yeah. I think it's a great conspiracy.
I think that's actually, like,
and I was the first
semi-legit.
And just so you know, I was the first one to come up with it right now. I just thought of it right
Copyright.
now. So, yeah, by the 1970s, North Carolina judicial policy had shifted, and incarceration for young men charged with truancy and minor crimes. I should have Googled truancy, but I didn't. But they became less prevalent. As a result, the school's population began to decline. They got down to like 150 in the early 2000s. And the type of inmate changed from just troubled youth to violent youth.
Yeah.
And that's where we're at today. The individuals currently held at the school are violent offenders or drug and weapons related offenders. So it's still there though. Like they have the old abandoned buildings that you see if you Google.
Yeah. See, I knew
this
that was
school.
there. I didn't realize that it was still open and
And
running
then
elsewhere.
behind that is new buildings with razor wire fences, and it's a juvenile detention center.
Yeah.
So,
Wow.
yeah.
Well,
So,
that's a thing. Nazis.
yeah.
They coming for us.
Confederates and Nazis, man.
I mean,
Are they in cahoots?
they could be. Could be. It's actually really funny because, again, we did our fun, like, person, place, or thing type of deal trying to figure out what we were each telling a story about. And we struggled a lot because we were like, well, I'm doing an institution. Well, it starts with an S. And then we were like, crap, like, because we both got into that place. But the funny thing to me in the long run is that you are doing an all-male school, and I have an all-female school.
Interesting.
That is interesting. So, what I'm going to be talking about is the Barber Scioto College for black females that are, it's this kind of like newly freed women of color trying to get an education school.
So, like, late 1800s?
Yes.
White women weren't even getting educated then.
It's like, I mean, we're in, the school was chartered in 1870. So,
I mean, I feel like white women weren't even getting educated then.
I mean, this seemed like a kind of new thing in general, so I'm not really sure.
Maybe white women got primary school by then.
Yeah, white women had to have been educated to some degree because this was already a college just for freed black women in 1870. And, I mean, women got the right to vote in 1920.
Yeah.
So that's only 50 years. And I realize history happened a lot closer to each other than we think it did. But
yeah.
So the whole school came from the Presbyterian Church. And basically, after the Civil War, there were a lot of different institutions and denominations of the church that were very divided over the slavery issue. And so the Presbyterian Church was none different. And there was Reverend Luke Dorland, who was a minister in the northern branch of the church, who founded a seminary in Concord that was for these freed young women of color. And he started this actually in 1867. And then in 1870, it was officially chartered as Scioto Seminary. And the goal was to prepare black women to work as social workers and teachers. So then by 1908, it had 19 teachers and 291 students. So, I mean, even then, that's already 40 years later. Like, it took a while for this to really be a thing. 1916, it was renamed Scioto Women's College. 1930, it merged with Barber Memorial College of Anniston, Alabama. I don't know how that happens. Nope.
Okay.
I do not know.
Okay.
And it became known as Barber Scioto Junior College. We had the first black president of the school in 1932.
The first black president of a black school?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Because it specifically said he was the first black president of the school in 1932, following 5 white male presidents for an all-black female school.
Okay.
In 1946, the school became a 4-year women's college. And then in 1954, it became a co-ed institution.
Okay.
So something I thought was interesting was the school was actually modeled after Mount Holyoke Female Seminary, which is current day Mount Holyoke College. And I know this means zero to you. This is
Never heard of her.
It's a school in Western Massachusetts in Northampton area, which is where Fiona went to college and is actually where I wanted to go to college. It's one of the few all-female schools left in the country. I think there's like 5 of them.
Meredith College, Raleigh, North Carolina.
There you go. There's like 5 of them in the country. And Mount Holyoke is part of like a 5-school system where you can basically take classes at any of those 5 schools and you just like take the little bus and you go. And 2 of those 5 are all female, Mount Holyoke being one of them. But I just thought that was cool because that was a school I was very interested in. But, you know, life, so it didn't happen. But
yeah, life.
Well, I mean, like, I didn't apply to it or anything. I knew I couldn't afford it. So I didn't want to know if I could get in because I knew I couldn't afford it either way. And I didn't want to have to turn it down. So I just didn't bother. But
Word.
So that was cool to me. And it is on the Scioto Seminary is on the National Register of Historic Places and is one of only 4 19th century institutional buildings left in Cabarrus County.
Well, I'll be. My place was on the national list of historic
Nice.
places.
There you go.
I just didn't say that.
Well, shoot. Well, shoot. I mean, yeah, that's probably one of those 4. But.
Well, did you say like institutions? I mean, this may not really be considered an institution.
don't know. Hard to say. That's why I said may. I didn't say it's definitely one of the 4.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
But, so I'm going to kind of dedicate the majority of the time to one specific graduate who's kind of the most well-known graduate of that school.
Hold on, is this still a school? Or
Yes.
No? Okay.
I believe it is currently an unaccredited school, which I didn't understand what that meant either. It sounds like it basically means like all of the degrees and classwork and everything are valid. However, it's like you're not able to get government funding to attend. So like you can't get like grants and things for that school. Like the government won't recognize it to give money to it that way. But you can attend it and it's not like your degree is invalid, but you have to come up with that money yourself or like take out personal loans. Is basically what I understood of it. I could be completely wrong, but there it is. Because it was something like they had accreditation and then kind of like lost the accreditation. And so I'm not really sure what. I don't even know how that happens.
Yeah, I have no idea. I mean, I watched this one movie called Accepted where they made a college.
I have seen that, yes.
And I feel like they got accreditation. So I feel like this place should be able to get accreditation.
The Hollywoods, man.
You're telling me it wasn't real?
That was totally real. So their most notable graduate is a woman named Mary McLeod Bethune. I am butchering that. I know I'm butchering it. There's no probably about it.
Never heard of her.
And I'm going to deep dive into her for a minute, but just another quick notable graduate of Barber Scioto College is Katie Geneva Cannon, who became the first Black woman ordained by the United Presbyterian Church. So rock on for her. So Miss Mary was originally born Mary Jane McLeod. It's like an E-O-D.
McLeod.
You just want to say Leo so you can get Leo DiCaprio in everything. Listen,
No.
man crush.
That's not it.
She was born July 10th, 1875 in Maysville, South Carolina. She is the 15th of 17 children.
Word. They was busy.
This is speculation, but I believe she was the first of her entire family to be born free. I say it's speculation because what I read was that herself and 2 siblings were the only ones that were born free. So my speculation, if she is 15th, 16, 17. So I don't know if she was technically first, but she was
I think that's a pretty good educated guess.
one of 3 that was born free.
I need beer.
Oh, I was like, I didn't put that lid on good enough. That's why it's fitting tight.
Hey, you keep on keeping on.
I'm gonna
pour this beer.
I need to drink straight from it.
Oh, okay.
So her family, obviously. Oh God! Don't pour it full. It's gonna foam up. It's gonna foam up. Stop! It's gonna foam up. Look at that.
Good.
It's gonna foam up and over. Give it a second.
Good. Gosh.
Y'all, he does not know how to pour a beer.
Yeah, do you?
Well, no, don't close that. Give that a second. You're gonna need to refill.
No, that's fine. I'm good.
Y'all, this man needs some beer pouring lessons. Anyway, so her family, all born into slavery for the most part. Eventually, they scrounged up enough money to buy their own little plot of land. Still working basically the same lifestyle, though.
It's probably sharecropping or something.
I mean, yeah. So Miss Mary here was working in the fields by the time she was 5. And by the time she was 9, she could pick 250 pounds of cotton in a day by herself.
I don't know if that's a lot, but dang.
Sounds like skills. And so eventually, obviously, the rest of her family became freed in that process.
Yeah.
She was the first, and I want to say the only one who was formally educated in her family. She went to the Maysville School, which was a Presbyterian mission school for African Americans. And each day she would, one of those, like, actually walked several miles to and from school.
Uphill both ways?
Yes, in the snow.
In South Carolina.
Yes. But she did genuinely walk several miles to school and then would come home at night and teach everyone in her family everything she learned that day. So it was kind of like, I guess that was sort of her family responsibility was, you get to go be educated, but then you come home and you educate the rest of us. And so it was...
That's pretty smart.
I mean, yeah, that's a really interesting proxy education system. And so that everybody else can still get stuff done. Yeah. So she graduated from there in 1886 and managed to get a scholarship for the Scioto Seminary. And I believe I read in one account, there's very limited information on her time actually at the seminary. But it sounded like she had a friend from her kind of primary school that went and worked with her and tried to help get her the scholarship and whatever. And like, it was kind of like, it sounded like she didn't know much of it, but this friend kind of pulled her along. Not that she was unable to get there herself, but in terms of, hey, I'm going here, you should come, let's go together type of a thing. Mm-hmm. That kind of pulling along. So she graduated from the Scioto Seminary. Again, currently it's Barber Scioto College, but it's just...
Yeah.
It's what it was called in that time, and so now I just can't get out of it. She graduated there in 1894, and she actually wanted to be a missionary to Africa and was turned down from that attempt because she was African American, which seems almost backwards of like, given the racial tension in the country, would you not want to be like, yeah, go ahead, go back to, like, it seems strange. But they were like, no, we don't have room for you. And so she was turned away. And then in that process, she kind of had the epiphany of there's so much that African Americans in the U.S. need, in this just coming out of slavery part, they need education, they need, religion, they need everything that like white society has and we don't. Like, yeah, I can do this right here.
That's interesting because I think a lot of people feel that way still.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on, people do missions to Africa or and yeah, they need it, but there's also
so many issues stateside. Yeah.
That you could help take care of. But you go to Venezuela first.
But I think it's one of those, I do not disagree with you at all. I 100% agree. I think it's one of those, it's easier to like point the finger at someone else than it is at yourself. And so it's easier to say, well, they need help, I'm going to go help them, instead of I'm going to stay here and help my own country. Even though it's not me, it's my country. That means I have to take responsibility. And that means my attempt at fixing it, if I fail, is an actual failure versus if I fail someone else, it's like, whatever, I can go home.
Yeah.
I think there's sort of that subliminal thing.
It's a little more exotic too.
I mean, yeah.
You know, there's people get more excited about it because you're actually going somewhere. You're not going around the corner.
Sure. But
when you should be going around the corner.
Teach for America is a real thing.
Yeah, I know there's plenty of things that do help. I'm not saying nobody helps.
No, I know. But, I mean, it was something like, I learned about the Peace Corps my whole life. Not like learned about it, but you hear about it all the time.
Yeah.
And then I was about to graduate college, and someone said something like they were going to look into Teach for America. I was like, what the is that?
Yeah.
And I was like, how is that a thing that I've never even heard of? But, like, I can go do the Peace Corps or be, a missionary or whatever.
It's not epic enough.
Right.
Even though it would be more useful.
Yeah.
To you.
Yeah. But it's like the stakes
people.
are higher because it's home. And, yeah, it's less exotic and less exciting and whatever. But it's like the stakes are higher and it seems harder almost because we're supposed to be like the greatest country in the world and all this crap. And so it's like there's so much extra like red tape to really make change. Where, you go in the middle of nowhere, Africa, and you're like, cool, I just have to like convince a tribe leader to let me hang out
you gotta have,
and
like,
it's fine.
permits and you got to be up to code and
yeah, like it makes it so much
you can go to Venezuela
different.
and build a house and it'd be like, thanks.
Yeah.
Here you got to be like, read this.
Like they're going to make you tear the entire thing
10
down
inch.
because this space between the studs is 7 inches and not 6. And this person's like, but I could have an entire home. And they're like, nope, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm like, I get it. I get why there is codes and stuff, but like it's nuts. So she graduated there, got turned down, kind of had this new vision for how she wanted to proceed with her life. Ends up getting married. She becomes a teacher. It doesn't say directly where to start with, but she becomes a teacher. And at 23, in 1898, she marries a fellow teacher, Albertus Bethune. And they have a son, Albert McLeod Bethune. Ultimately, she ends up teaching in Georgia, South Carolina, Florida, and Illinois between 1895 and 1903. And then ultimately, they end up settling in Daytona, Florida. And in 1904, she opens a high school, a hospital, and the Daytona Normal and Industrial Institution for Negro Girls. So she busy. She's making all the things happen.
All over the place. Horse and buggy style.
Yes. And then in 1907, good old Hubs deserts the family and he gone. He out. He couldn't handle it.
She was
Powerful woman and whatnot. He couldn't do it.
She was too strong.
So it was less than a decade that they were married and that gone. That done. So the Daytona Normal School that she had opened becomes wildly popular. And so that leads to it merging with a Methodist school. So I presume this was
some kind of Bible college. Presbyterian.
Thank you. I was like, it's a P. My brain couldn't get there. So I assume it was a Presbyterian. But this popularity of this school leads to it merging with a Methodist school, the Cookman Institute for Men in Jacksonville in 1923. And so it became the Bethune Cookman College. And Mary served as the merged college's first president from 1923 to 1942, and then again from 1946 and 1947. And at that time, it was basically unheard of for a female to be a president of a college. And so for her to do that for such a long time was very impressive on a scale, one as a female, let alone a black female.
Yeah.
So during this time, that's kind of her school life, educational, institutional life. On the other hand, she's doing all this political
Mumbo jumbo.
Yes. So in 1917, she was elected the president of the Florida Federation of Colored Women. And in 1924, she was elected the president of the National Association of Colored Women, the NACW, kind of sounds like a NAACP situation, just women. I feel super ignorant to say this, but I don't know off the top of my head when the NAACP officially started.
Yeah, I don't know.
Sorry. But I don't know exactly when that started, so I don't know if this was a precursor to that as a whole, or if it was a kind of subsequent subsidiary of it that was just for women. I'm not quite sure that timeline. Yeah. But that sounded like that's more or less what the association was. And so the NACW was originally formed in 1896, and so in 1924 she was elected president. And she tried at that time, with that kind of authority, to steer the group beyond the traditional self-help and moral uplift and toward politics and agitation for integration in the society by attacking racial discrimination and segregation in the federal government. And ultimately had obviously a lot of struggles doing that. And so she got so frustrated with the difficulty of eliminating Jim Crow laws and all of that situation and all of the internal politics of the NACW that in 1935 she left the association and founded the National Council of Negro Women, the NCNW. Yes, it's a different acronym because I read it and I was like, is that not the same thing? Slightly different, but yes. And so that organization had a more explicit civil rights agenda than the other one, where the other one was a little more like, let's sit in a circle and talk about stuff and be there to lift each other up situation.
A little more sorority style.
Maybe.
Paid friendships and whatnot.
Probably not paid, but yes. Oh. However, leading into this time, our dear friend Mary had become quite good friends with one Eleanor Roosevelt. You know, she's a little high standing.
Oh, Eleanor, huh?
Yeah. She a fancy lady.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's believed that Eleanor had a lot of influence on this creation of the NCNW, the second group. And so that friendship led to Mary becoming the director of the National Youth Administration's Division of Negro Affairs. And she held that post from 1936 to 1943. And so basically, it's like an extended cabinet member. Like it's a high administrative post in the government at that time. And so there was kind of this, you know, the president has his cabinet, there's all these other institutions and, what is the word? Agencies. There's all these institutions and all these agencies and, you know, doing their things. Mm-hmm. And at this time in history, which I had never heard of this until just now, and I'm not exactly surprised that I've never heard of it, being a little white girl, but there was an unofficial black cabinet for the president. And so basically he chose leading African-American officials from several different government agencies and kind of put them together in a room and said, I know you're in all kinds of different parts of the government, but I need your help with kind of like minority affairs, which obviously primarily at that time meant African-American affairs in the country and sort of how that is going to run. And so there was this informal cabinet, and so she becomes part of that and ends up having a lot of clout and all kinds of things. And so there's a time where she actually becomes the president of this black cabinet, which was primarily men. And so like all around, she's just breaking glass ceilings everywhere because that's incredible to not only be in the position she was given as the youth administration chair, but to then be kind of put into this informal committee and then to be leading this informal committee. It's just nuts. So that was really cool that she got to be in that position at all and have the influence that she had. And then as director of the youth, she basically led an organization. It trained tens of thousands of black youth for skilled positions, and ultimately ended up training some, like being responsible for the training of some of the first African-American fighter pilots for World War II.
Tuskegee Airmen? Is that right?
I don't know.
Okay.
I do not know. She ultimately became the most prominent African American in the Roosevelt administration, highly influenced by her friendship with Eleanor. And it had a lot of policy influence in the 1930s, which is really cool.
Yeah, I'd say Eleanor is arguably one of the most powerful first ladies ever.
Yeah. I mean, you don't hear about any...
Yeah, you don't even really hear about the husband that much during that. I mean, you do, but she was...
But I mean, aside from, like, what we have lived through, I don't know if I could name... I mean, Martha Washington. Yeah. But, like, I don't know if I could even name wives of 90% of the presidents.
True.
But, like, Eleanor Roosevelt is someone...
Abigail Adams.
But, like, is someone you can name, but also, like, I can tell you, like, famous quotes she said, like, and things she has done and accomplished. And
she definitely changed the role, probably, of what a first lady should be.
Mm-hmm. She's like, no, I'm going to do something here.
Yeah, I'm bored. In this big white house.
Pennsylvania Avenue. So ultimately, in her life, Mary was instrumental in integrating the Red Cross, increasing public awareness of lynching, voter discrimination in federal elections, and segregation on interstate trains and buses. And in 1949, she was appointed by President Truman to lead the U.S. delegation to Liberia and to observe the inauguration of their president. And she served on Truman's Committee of 12 for the National Defense. So being one of 12, as a woman, as an African-American, all impressive. May 18, 1955, Miss Mary has a heart attack, passes away.
Well, she was busy, though.
She had a life. She had a life.
The heart had been thumping.
So she lived long enough to see the Supreme Court strike down Brown versus Board of Education. She died just 7 months before the beginning of the Montgomery bus boycott, which ushered in these modern civil rights movement.
Martin Luther King and whatnot.
Yeah. So, I mean, so she got to see some kind of fruits of her labor without getting through all of it. Something cool is she actually served under 4 presidents. So the most prominent things happened under the Roosevelt era. But like we said, was assigned to some things with Truman. And she also worked under Calvin Coolidge and Herbert Hoover. And was on
Herbert, huh?
The Hoove. So she was on some of their committees and participated there. So that's also just really awesome to be continually in service for 4 different presidents. I mean, that's a long time and a lot of trust.
Yeah, and probably
in her
different denominations. Is that
affiliations?
Parties. Yeah, party affiliation. Church, Presbyterian and Methodist. Yeah, she did different denominations.
But that's what I mean. Is like she seemed like, yes, she had an agenda, but the agenda was let's bring everybody together. And I think her life really showed that in terms of, she literally brought different like sections of Christianity together and I realized like it's just Christianity, but still like people get hard and whatever about those distinctions. And so she literally brought those things together throughout her life, brought together different political parties, brought together, like women and men and races. Like she was killing it. And then just another side note was that she was also a very astute businesswoman. And so she owned several businesses in Florida. And there was one story where basically all the beaches in Florida were white only. And it wasn't like just segregated. It was just white only. And so they were like, well, what the hell? And so herself and several other African-American folk bought up all of the businesses along this one strip of beach and basically turned it into a black beach. But they did not segregate it. Like they allowed white people to come. And so like that was just kind of a cool thing. And so she was like a quarter owner of that kind of strip of the world. But she's like noted for contributing to and owning and running several businesses. So, I mean, between the businesses, the political stuff, the school stuff, like, no wonder Hub's left because he's like, I can't take this. But
Yeah.
she killed it. Like, she's another one of those, like, that's an incredible role model for African Americans and for women
That we've never heard of. Yeah.
And maybe, again, because I'm a little white girl, I've never heard of her. But, I mean, who has heard of her? She's awesome.
I bet you Condoleezza Rice knows her.
Condi. She got it on lock. But that's Miss Mary Bethune. I know I'm butchering her name, guys. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm so impressed with her. She's kicking ass and taking names, and I want to be like her when I grow up.
Okay.
I need to work on that.
We'll do it.
Somebody get me in with the press. Not this press.
Why not?
Football. Killing it.
So, we'll just start off.
Yeah.
With week 1.
Fantasy week
football
1 is over. It's in the books, kids.
I mean, as I said, I'm pretty good. And I get lucky.
Lucky.
Yeah. So we're just going to run through, I guess, like...
Real quick overview.
Yeah, just how it went, who won, what.
Sounds
I'll probably just run through winners.
Yeah, do it.
So I won
Against?
week 1 against Pain Train.
Sorry, Holmes.
Oh, Christopher.
Maybe next time.
Yeah. If there is a next time, I don't know how this works. I mean, because there's 12 teams.
Right.
And only 14 weeks. Because 2 weeks of playoff and they don't do week 17.
Yeah, I know.
So 14 regular season weeks.
Yeah, so we don't know how many times we'll play.
You may, and it may be where you're one of the 2 that I play again. One of the 3 that I play again. Anyways, so that that would make sense.
I played Beer With Me CLT.
Yes.
Is that what there?
Yes.
So I played Beer With Me CLT, and I won.
Yeah.
Hashtag sorry, not sorry. Sorry for your loss, not for my win. The NFL app is really making Drew struggle right now.
Yeah, I just wanted to say too that, like,
we'll get to that part, but do we right now?
Oh. I mean, I was pretty nervous Monday because I didn't have anybody left to play.
Yeah,
and he had
fate
a couple.
Was in
Philip Lindsay.
Yeah, I almost said Landry, and I was like, no.
Jared Cook, Michael Thomas. He had them guys, and Thomas helped him out. Cook didn't do anything. Lindsay just had a pedestrian day. Just okay. So, yeah, thanks.
I mean, you weren't so proud of Trubisky's showing?
Oh, my God. I don't even know if I'm going to start Trubisky the rest
8 points,
of the year.
guys.
For a quarterback.
8 points.
India Pale Ale Mary. Who dat?
Screen.
Yep, got the W.
W over Beer With Me CLT.
And you pulled it out on Monday night. Yeah.
Well, I had my quarterback, a running back, and my defense on Monday. So, I mean, those are some, in theory, heavy hitters. Drew does not know how to use fantasy app.
It's delayed.
He's impatient and ruining the fantasy app. Let's state that.
Yeah. So, yeah, did he have anybody playing Monday night? Nope.
No. But he
was probably sweating like Kamara.
Killed it for me.
Sammy Watkins?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'll take those 46 and a half points. Thank you.
And she didn't even want to draft him.
Anyway. Hindsight is 2020.
Oh, Chris.
Took the W.
Against Grieving Helmets. Which, did we talk about that last time? Where you didn't get the name Grieving Helmets? Okay. Well, we'll talk about it again.
It's not that I'm ignorant. It was the whole play on words thing. We talked about this.
Yeah. So Krabby Patties
overtook Fumble Ibuski.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe Krabby Patties was projected to lose. But they took it.
Yeah, they were. And it's such a crapshoot.
Yeah. I mean,
Fumble Ibuski had freaking Steelers defense 33 points against the Patriots.
God, that sucked.
I was like, come on, Fumble Ibuski. You're going to play a defense against the Patriots?
That's also true.
Like, I can't stand the Patriots.
I
but
can't
come
either,
on.
but
And who?
think that through.
What was the other one? Was it?
It might have been.
No.
Maybe
Your
mine.
person?
Yeah.
The Jaguars against the
Kansas
Chiefs?
City.
Beer with me, CLT?
What are you doing? I mean, thanks. What are you doing?
I mean, they actually had points, though. Oh, -4.
Yeah, -4. That's the points.
Oh.
Anyway. Hindsight, Krabby Patties. 2-pint conversation.
With
killing it
with
with
the
points.
top scorer of the week. Puts them in the lead after week 1.
173.
Yeah,
That's
didn't
nuts.
have a single person under double digits. You know,
well played.
didn't have the highest scoring players. I had a 40. You had a 40. He didn't have anybody in the 40s, but
Slow and steady,
he also
man.
didn't have a quarterback that got 8.
Yeah.
So,
Well done, man. And his defense got 14. Did I just see that?
yep, against Atlanta. So, Atlanta sucks.
But well played, sir.
Yeah. And poor old Hangover on Downs had a kicker that didn't get any points. I mean, you don't usually count them for many.
But yeah,
But
it can make or break. It can be that little.
Yeah, but at least one.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't attempt a field goal or an extra point. So he didn't even get on the field.
Yikes.
Falcons suck. I'm happy about it.
Mm-hmm.
So one more.
Final matchup.
That's Pabst interference, the old PBR reference.
Beat out Patriots Dynasty 6-6.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah. I mean, I'm happy for that. I'm upset about the regular Patriots, but I'll take this for what I can get from it.
Hey, I mean, PBR. Ain't got a blue ribbon for nothing.
He's going to say that all season, y'all. Get used to it. I've been hearing it for years.
Yeah.
Man, week 1's in the books. It was a good time. Took some people out. What y'all really need to know, though, it may cause some problems. Next week, matchups. I made the mistake earlier today of saying, hey, who do I play next week? Mm-hmm. I play the man looking at me across this table right now, y'all. I was hoping we would have this matchup a little later in the season, but instead...
Hey, get it out early. Let's see what our projected is right now.
I didn't touch it, for the record.
What, your team?
Yeah.
Yeah, I ain't touched mine either. But whatever.
Oh.
You up 2 right now.
I was like, I just see green on my side. I'm going to take it.
Yeah. I mean, I might switch 1 or 2 out. You never know. Especially after old Trubisky.
I hope he comes out with like 75 points. Anyway, so it's me and Drew against each other next week.
Yep.
This week, I guess, when you're listening to this. We've got Pain Train and Hindsight is 2020.
The Battle of the Chris's.
Hey, good luck, boys. We've got Beer With Me CLT against Fumble Biuski.
Mm-hmm.
Grieving Helmets against 2-Pint Conversation. Krabby Patties and Patriots Dynasty. And I can't read from
Hangover on Downs.
Hangover on Downs and Pabst Interference.
Yeah, so it's going to be a fun one.
Mm-hmm. That's also, too, it's like the first week to 3 weeks is always just
you don't really know
toss-up.
what's going to happen.
So this is all kind of just luck, but
And
I'm
with
going to talk a crap ton of smack across this table.
And with a 12-team lead, like 12-team league, if you want to pick somebody up, it's probably
hard.
Yeah, it's gonna be tough. Pretty much everybody
Wheeling and dealing, folks. I take bribes.
Yeah, trades are allowed. So
Send us a message. I take bribes. I also don't understand this optimize button where, like, I get conceptually it's I'm just going to put in the highest scoring projected points. I clicked my optimize button for last week, and it put someone in a spot who had lower points than somebody put on my bench. Just for one.
It could have just been a favorable matchup. somehow.
But I don't understand how that
Yeah.
makes all of its logic. So, nonetheless, first week in the books. I'm sitting on the top half. Drew's sitting on the top half. Half of y'all are sitting in the bottom half. Sucks to suck. And we'll see how it goes this week. Can we go back to the matchups real quick?
Yeah.
So obviously Drew and I both won, so we're going head to head. So that'll leave one person undefeated and one partially defeated.
Partially defeated.
Well, I mean, okay, so we'll have one that's still undefeated. He lost and he won, so that's a wash. Lost and lost, so that's kind of a wash.
Mm-hmm.
Lost and won, that's a wash.
Lost and won.
And, yeah.
Lost and won.
So we're the only one that...
Are both undefeated, yeah. One weekend, though. It's fine.
Right. But in theory, we could come out of this week with you or I being the only person left undefeated.
Well, yeah. Yeah. One of us is going to be undefeated.
May the odds be ever in your favor. Well, no, I'm saying out of the entire league, if everything went where the one person who won is playing the person who lost, if that flops, it could be that someone sitting at this table is going to be the only person in the entire league still undefeated at only week 2.
Could be.
It may not be, but it could be.
And
it's
if
a possibility.
It's probably going to be me.
Lies. We'll see how next week goes.
Yeah. But yeah, we will be in your ears next week.
Talk some smack. Try to bribe us with some trades. He's the commish. Bribe him. He'll change some things. I don't know what.
I'll change rules.
He'll kick people out the
Can
league.
I do that?
I don't know.
If I can, I will.
But let us know. Either talk trash through the app. There's a way to send messages and things in there. Send us a message on our Instagram at Van Gogh Creative. And yeah, it'll be a good time. But I guess that's all. So we'll see you all next week with whatever the heck this pans out as.
Check you later.
Bye.